Hello, fifth graders. Welcome to our next math lesson, which is dealing with chapter 13, lesson 2. It's entitled Evaluate Expressions, and we are beginning on page 742 in your textbook. As a review from last lesson, 13-1, I introduced you to a phrase. The phrase was, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." And if you remember, the first letter of each one of these words would represent what order you would do your mathematical operations. And so I'm going to pull this over here and just as a review, hopefully remember that the word please stands for the word parentheses, which means you always do parentheses first. The excuse stands for exponents. Now, we did say that in this particular chapter, we are not going to have exponents, but I wanted to make you familiar with them because when we finally do have them, that's where they would go. Then we have the words my dear. That stands for multiplication and division. You should notice that the words multiplication and division are on the same line. That means that if you ever have to do both at the same time, you would do whichever one comes first. Okay, so this does not mean always do multiplication before division. If you have to do them both, whichever one comes first, that's the one you do first. And then the words Aunt Sally stands for addition and subtraction. And just like multiplication and division, this does not mean always do addition before subtraction. What this means is if you have to do both at the same time, you do whichever one is listed first. Okay? Now, we're going to take this. Well, first of all, here's our example. So I have 25 minus 5, and I'm going to multiply that by, inside parentheses, 16 minus 13. So if we do the order of operations, we would always make sure to do parentheses first. So you will notice that we did 16 minus 13 first, and by doing 16 minus 13, we got 3 as our answer. Then I brought the 5 times, I brought that down, and I brought the 25 minus sign, I brought that down, because we haven't done anything with that yet. Then the next thing I'm going to look for is multiplication and division. I see that I have a multiplication problem here, which is 5 times 3, and 5 times 3 is 15. And then I bring the 25 minus sign down because I haven't done anything with that yet. Then I look for addition and subtraction, which obviously I have a subtraction left over. So I take 25 minus 15, and that final answer is going to be 10. Okay. Now today we're going to take that just a little bit further, and we're going to look at a new symbol today. And this symbol here, these are called brackets. Now, whenever you see these brackets, these are on the same line as parentheses. Okay. Whenever you see these, we want to focus on what is inside of the brackets first. Then we're going to do what's outside the brackets. Okay. So here's an example. I have a problem, 4 times 6, and that is inside parentheses. And then I'm going to add 6 to that, but you'll notice all of that is inside the brackets. And then finally, I have divide by 6. Okay, so if we look at the next page, we kind of spell out how to particularly do this problem. Since we see brackets around the 4 times 6 plus 6, that means we are going to do everything that's inside the brackets first. So that's a clue to you, fifth graders. Anything that's outside of the brackets, this divide by 6, that's actually going to be the very last thing we are going to do. So we're going to focus inside the brackets first, and then we'll go out and do the outside. So now inside the brackets, I have 4 times 6 inside parentheses. And then I have a plus 6. Now, which one am I going to do first? Well, this is where you need to follow the order of operations still. So if you ever have more than one in here, we always check for parentheses first. And you should notice we do have some parentheses here. So I'm going to take 4 times 6, and that 4 times 6 is 24. I'm going to bring down the plus 6. I'm also going to bring the bracket symbols down, and then I'm going to bring the divide by 6. Now, if I accidentally forgot to bring these bracket signs down, I might be tempted to do the 6 divided by 6 first, and I don't want to do that because I know that this divide by 6 is the very last thing we have to do. So that's why bringing those brackets down is probably a good idea. Then I want to do the 24 plus 6 because that's still inside the brackets. So I take 24 plus 6, and that's going to give me 30. Okay. Now I don't have to worry about bringing the brackets down anymore because I have it all done. And now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 30, and I'm going to divide that by 6. And so my final answer here is going to be 5. Okay. Let's do a couple problems together, kind of demonstrate how this is going to work. So my first problem here is you see that I have the number 52, and I'm going to add 48 divided by 8. You notice that the 48 divided by 8 is inside parentheses. You will notice that all of this is also inside a bracket, and then you'll see all of a sudden the plus 17 is by itself. Now already, just by looking at this problem, hopefully you'll be able to remember, well, you know what? That plus 17 is not inside the bracket. So that means this is going to be the very last thing I'm going to do. And I'm going to focus just on the inside of the bracket first. Okay, so by doing that, what I'm going to do, oops, hit the wrong button here. By doing that, what I'm going to do is, let me get my pen here. I'm going to now let me do the parentheses first, because I know that I need to do the parentheses before I do the addition. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take the 48, I'm going to divide that by 8. So the 48 divided by 8, and that's going to give me a 6 as my answer. So when I divide those two. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring down that plus 52. Okay. I'm still going to bring the brackets down because I don't want to accidentally forget to do inside the brackets first. And then I'm going to bring the plus 17 down. Now I still have to complete the brackets first before I do anything else. So I have to do the 52 plus 6 first. So I'm going to do this part next. 52 plus 6, that should give me 58 as an answer. Okay. Now I'm going to bring that plus 17 down. Yes, that is a plus sign. I apologize for my sloppiness. And now the last thing is I'm going to do 58 plus 17. I'm going to add those two numbers together, and that should give me an answer of 75. So 75 is my final answer here. Now over in this problem, we have something new as well. We see a set of parentheses. We also see some brackets, but we also see these other things here. These are called braces. This is another level of parentheses. So we have parentheses, we have brackets, and in some cases we have braces. And you're going to follow the same rule that we did with brackets. So you'll notice that all of this is inside of these braces. This whole thing here is inside the braces. But there's one thing that's not inside the braces right now. It's the plus 5. So already I know that this plus 5 is going to be the last thing I'm going to do. Now if I look inside the braces, you'll notice that I have a set of brackets here. There's my brackets. You'll notice that there's one thing not inside the brackets, and that's the minus 1. So that tells me that this one is going to be the second to last thing I'm going to do. And now I'm going to focus on just the brackets first. So think of it, boys and girls, as kind of trying to work from the inside of the problem, and you're starting to work your way out. So the first thing I'm going to do with this particular problem is the parentheses that is inside the brackets. So the parentheses I'm going to do first is the 14 minus 9. And that 14 minus 9 is going to give me an answer of 5. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring everything else down because I don't want to accidentally forget anything. So I'm going to bring the braces here, and I'm going to bring the minus 1. Okay. All right. I think I forgot to put my bracket right there. Okay. And then, so here's my brace. Got my brace here. Okay. And then I've got the plus 5. So I know it looks kind of weird, but all I've done so far is I've done the 14 minus 9, which is 5. I brought everything else down in the exact order that it should be written. Okay. Now I still want to get the bracket done first. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do that 2 times 5. And I'm doing the 2 times 5 because it's inside the bracket first. So I'm going to take that 2 times 5, which is 10. Now I don't have to worry about writing the bracket anymore because now I have the number. So now I'm going to do is I'm going to do the 10 minus 1. I still have that brace there. And that would be this brace right here. Okay. And then I have my plus 5. So all I've done is I've done the 2 times 5, which is 10. Now, this is still inside the braces, so I still got to do this first. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the 10 minus 1. The 10 minus 1 is my 9. Okay. Now I'm going to bring down the plus 5. All right. And now my last step, as I said before, was the plus 5. So I'm going to take 9 plus 5, and that final answer is going to be 14. So if you ever see these, and you probably will see these in a problem or two, it's kind of like working on the inside out. I want to do what's inside first. Let's do these parentheses. Then we'll do the braces. Then we'll do the brackets. Then we'll do everything, parentheses, brackets, then the braces, and then everything on the outside of the particular problem. Okay? So that kind of explains the lesson for you today. Your assignment is going to be on page 743 and 744. I am going to have you do all of the problems on page 743. You're going to do numbers 1 through 21. And then if you turn the page over to 744, you can cross out numbers 2 through 26. And I am also going to have you do numbers 27 and 28. So pretty much all of your problems today are just taking those braces, those brackets, those parentheses, and trying to narrow it down to one particular answer. As always, if you have any questions, fifth graders, please do not hesitate to reach out and ask for help. I am here to help you as best I can. If you need a review of what we talked about in the lesson, please go ahead and look at the lesson again. But if not, we will see you with the next lesson.